There's no threat. Went into the pews like a normal human being. No issue. And that Britney is in a very, very dangerous city. So unfortunately, while Meghan thinks that this briefing to People magazine makes her look cute and like one of us, very sort of low maintenance, something we know she isn't, by the way. On the morning of May 4th, a photograph appeared on social media that should have been completely unremarkable. NBC reporter Natalie Martinez posted an image from Holy Name Cathedral in Chicago. Her daughter walking toward her first communion with a caption that read simply "Holy Name vibes today." But there, visible in the pews to the right of her daughter, sat someone who was very much not supposed to be photographed in a casual church setting without extensive preparation and approval. Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex, caught in an unguarded moment at a public religious ceremony. Within hours, the post vanished from Martinez's social media entirely, scrubbed as if it had never existed. The question is not why Meghan was at this church service. People magazine quickly provided that explanation, confirming she had traveled to Chicago for her godson's first communion, the child of one of her best friends from Northwestern University. The question that should concern anyone following the Sussex saga is far more interesting. Why would a seemingly innocent photograph of a duchess attending a religious ceremony require immediate deletion? What about this image threaten the carefully constructed narrative that Meghan and her team have spent years building? The answer reveals something far larger than vanity or image control. This single deleted photograph exposed the machinery of manipulation that has defined the Sussex brand since they departed royal life. And it created a contradiction so glaring that even the most sympathetic observer cannot ignore it. This is the story of a photograph that could not be allowed to exist, and what its brief appearance tells us about the increasingly desperate attempts to control a narrative that is slipping further from Meghan's grasp with each passing week. The reports emerging from inside Sussex circles paint a picture of someone who operates less like a former working royal and more like a Hollywood starlet from the 1950s, complete with photo approval clauses and image stipulations that would make even the most demanding celebrity publicist raise an eyebrow. According to insiders who have dealt with the couple professionally, Meghan demands authority over every personal image that features her, requiring final approval before anything can be posted or published. One source put it bluntly to commentators covering the royal beat, noting that she wants stipulations and all sorts of authority over her own personal image. Now, this level of control is not inherently unreasonable. Plenty of A-list celebrities maintain similar agreements with photographers and publications. The Kardashians famously approve images before they appear in magazines, and major movie stars routinely negotiate photo approval into their contracts. But here is where the comparison falls apart entirely. What happened in terms of this local television celebrity posting the picture, then the moment it's picked up by People magazine, Britney, she deletes it. Well, I'm sorry. I'm not born yesterday. Those celebrities built empires that justify such demands. Kim Kardashian has 250 million Instagram followers and a $1 billion shapewear company. Beyoncé has sold over 200 million records worldwide. These are women who created their own fame through decades of work, controversy, reinvention, and relentless self-promotion. Meghan Markle was a supporting actress on a cable legal drama that averaged around 750,000 viewers per episode during its original run. That is not dismissive of her acting career. It is simply factual context. The vast majority of Americans had never heard her name before her relationship with Prince Harry became public. Her current level of recognition, her ability to command attention and sell magazine covers derives almost entirely from her connection to the British royal family. As one insider put it rather devastatingly, she is very much the spare. She has no independent power base that would typically justify this level of image control. The fundamental disconnect is obvious to everyone except apparently the Duchess herself. She did not build an entertainment empire and then marry into royalty. She married into royalty and is now attempting to build an entertainment empire on that foundation. The order of operations matters enormously because it means every product launch, every Netflix deal, every magazine cover leads with the same credentials, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Strip away those titles, and you are left with a former television actress and her husband living in Montecito, indistinguishable from dozens of other wealthy couples in that zip code. People magazine's coverage of the Chicago trip actually confirms something that undermines the entire Sussex brand positioning. Their source told the publication that Meghan arrived early to Holy Name Cathedral, waited with other families and friends in the pews, and did not use a separate entrance or have any special accommodations. Read that again carefully. She arrived early, waited with everyone else, and used the same entrance as regular attendees. The purpose of this detail was obvious: to make Meghan appear relatable and down-to-earth, just like any other mother attending a friend's child's communion. But consider what this admission actually proves. It demonstrates that Meghan Markle can travel across the United States, appear at a public event in a major American city, and do so without incident, without massive security details, without special arrangements. She blended into a crowd of families at a church service in Chicago, and nothing happened. No security incidents, no threatening crowds, no need for elaborate protective measures. The very story meant to humanize her instead creates a devastating contradiction with the legal case her husband has been pursuing for years. Prince Harry has been engaged in an ongoing battle with the British government over security arrangements. His fundamental argument is that he and his family face such extreme danger in the United Kingdom that they require taxpayer-funded protection whenever they visit. The legal proceedings have dragged on, with Harry's team arguing that the threat level is simply too high for the family to move freely without extensive security measures. This argument has been central to explaining why the Sussexes rarely visit Britain, why reconciliation with the royal family remains complicated, and why any potential return to royal duties would require major security concessions. The Chicago photograph obliterates this entire narrative with brutal efficiency. Let us examine the facts that Meghan's own publicity team provided to People magazine. She flew from California to Illinois, attended a public church service in one of America's largest cities, sat in the pews with regular families, used the standard entrance, and returned home without incident. She did this in Chicago, a city that presents major security challenges by any objective measure. The statistics are worth examining in detail. Chicago recorded 460 homicides last year, which was actually the lowest figure the city had seen in 6 decades. By comparison, England and Wales, combined with a population of 60 million people, recorded 522 homicides in the same period. Chicago's population is just 2.7 million. In raw numbers, one mid-sized American city produced almost as many murders as the entirety of England and Wales. The per capita murder rate tells an even starker story. Chicago's rate is approximately 15.4 homicides per 100,000 residents, while the UK rate stands at 0.86 per 100,000. That means the risk of being murdered in Chicago is roughly 18 times higher than in Britain. Gun violence statistics are even more dramatic. Approximately 80% of Chicago's homicides are committed with firearms. England and Wales recorded just 32 firearm homicides in the most recent reporting year. Chicago sees more people shot to death in a typical year than the entire United Kingdom sees killed by guns over several years combined. If Meghan Markle can move freely through one of America's most statistically dangerous cities without elaborate security arrangements, attending public events, and sitting in church pews with strangers, the argument that the United Kingdom is too dangerous for the Sussexes to visit without taxpayer-funded protection becomes laughable. The photograph was not deleted because Meghan looked unflattering. It was deleted because its very existence proved she does not need the security arrangements her husband insists are core. The pattern of how this story emerged deserves careful examination because it reveals the sophisticated media manipulation that has become the Sussex signature move. Natalie Martinez is not a random church attendee who happened to snap a photograph. She is a journalist, an NBC reporter who understands exactly how media placement works, who knows that posting a photograph of a celebrity at a public event will generate attention and coverage. Her initial post appeared organic. A mother sharing her daughter's first communion with a celebrity coincidentally visible in the frame. The caption, "Holy Name Vibes Today," seemed casual and spontaneous. Within hours, People magazine, the publication that has served as the Sussexes' preferred outlet for positive coverage since their departure from royal life, had confirmed all the details. Meghan was there for her godson's first communion. She is the boy's godmother. She arrived early and waited with other families. She has already returned to Montecito. The story was carefully framed to present Meghan as a loyal friend who maintains long-term relationships, who travels across the country to support the people she cares about, who does not demand special treatment or separate entrances. Then Martinez deleted the original post. The photograph that started the entire news cycle vanished, as if it had never existed. But here's the problem with that strategy. The internet does not forget, and people are not stupid. As one observer noted on social media, "Why delete Natalie? Do not worry. I will not post your child, but this picture was found on X that you posted." Another pointed out the suspicious timing, writing that soon as the article was posted, you deleted. Starting to think that was not a coincidence. The deletion actually draws more attention to the photograph than leaving it up would have. It suggests that something about the image was problematic, music, that someone wanted it removed once it had served its purpose. The purpose, it seems increasingly clear, was to generate the People magazine story through apparently organic means. The photograph provided the news hook. People confirmed the heartwarming details, and then the original evidence was scrubbed. This playbook has Sunshine Sachs' fingerprints all over it. The kind of media manipulation that creates coverage while maintaining plausible deniability about coordinated publicity. The Godson storyline serves another strategic purpose that becomes obvious when you consider the context. Just weeks ago, Meghan sat down with Bloomberg and made comments that drew major criticism, particularly her suggestion that mothers gossip at school gates, which many interpreted as tone-deaf, given persistent reports that she and Harry are rarely seen at their children's school. The Chicago trip allows her team to push back on the narrative that she has no genuine friendships, no long-term relationships, no connections that predate her royal life. Look, the story says she has friends from college who trust her enough to make her godmother to their children. She flies across the country for their important moments. She maintains these bonds, but the strategy reveals as much as it conceals. Meghan will board a plane to Chicago for a godson's first communion. Yet, she will not visit her own father, whose recent return to America was confirmed by multiple sources over the weekend. Thomas Markle is now back in the United States, having made the journey from the Philippines where he had been living. His daughter Samantha posted the news, writing simply that Dad is back safely. So happy. Great new chapter in life. The geographic excuse that once explained the estrangement, the difficulty of international travel, the distance involved, that justification has now evaporated entirely. King Charles came to America during his state visit, spending days in New York and Washington, providing multiple opportunities for a meeting with his youngest son and daughter-in-law. Instead of reconciliation, the Sussexes chose counter-programming, releasing their People magazine cover story on the same day as William and Catherine's 15th wedding anniversary and during the heart of the King's American visit. The timing was not coincidental. It was strategic warfare disguised as lifestyle journalism. The pattern becomes undeniable when you examine which relationships Meghan maintains and which she discards. She keeps connections where she controls the narrative completely. Friends who will not challenge her version of events, who benefit from their association with her, who understand the rules of engagement. She severs ties with anyone who might hold her accountable, who knew her before the transformation, who could provide alternative perspectives on the carefully constructed mythology. Her father, her half-siblings, her former friends who have spoken publicly, the royal family members who witnessed the actual events of her time as a working royal. All of these relationships have been terminated or frozen. What remains are the relationships she can manage, the carefully curated circle of supporters who understand that access comes with implicit obligations. The list of burned bridges extends far beyond family, reaching into the highest levels of American celebrity and fashion. Anna Wintour, the legendary editor of Vogue and arguably the most powerful figure in global fashion, reportedly has no interest in helping the Sussexes. Sources describe the falling out as dating back to 2019 when Meghan collaborated with then-British Vogue editor Edward Enninful on the Forces for Change issue. A rivalry existed between Wintour at American Vogue and Enninful at British Vogue, and Meghan chose the wrong side. The consequences have been lasting. One insider put it bluntly, telling reporters that Anna hates her. The specific grievances reportedly include Meghan not wanting to pay for items and never returning borrowed pieces, practices that violate the unwritten rules of fashion industry relationships. Winter also genuinely admires the British royal family, having built relationships with working royals over decades. She would have viewed the Sussexes' handling of their exit with contempt, according to sources familiar with her perspective. The kicker is that Winter apparently never forgives and never forgets. The Kardashian relationship has similarly soured. The trouble reportedly stems from Harry and Meghan's attendance at Kris Jenner's 70th birthday party, which fell on the same day as Britain's annual Festival of Remembrance. The request that guests not share photographs of the couple, given the solemnity of the occasion they were apparently disregarding, did not sit well with a family whose entire empire is built on social media visibility. Sources now describe the Kardashians as being over them. Lauren Sanchez, who married Jeff Bezos and has become increasingly prominent in high society circles, was apparently snubbed before the Bezos wedding. According to reports, Meghan was invited to events by Sanchez but declined, not wanting to be seen with someone she reportedly considered trashy. The irony is almost too perfect. Sanchez, married to one of the world's richest men, has carefully cultivated relationships with fashion power brokers like Winter, accepting guidance on everything from Met Gala styling to event appearances. The access Meghan craves Sanchez secured through strategic difference. Exactly the approach Meghan has proven incapable of taking. The Met Gala absence this year speaks volumes. The first Monday in May is fashion's most important night. An invitation to the event signals arrival in the highest echelons of American culture. The Sussexes have never attended. They were not invited this year. And based on the state of their relationships with the people who control access, they will not be invited next year either. For someone who positions herself as a fashion icon and lifestyle authority, exclusion from the Met Gala is a devastating verdict from the industry that was supposed to embrace her. The People magazine cover story that dropped during King Charles's state visit deserves examination as a case study in defensive publicity. The headline announced Harry making his own rules, an attempt to reposition the prince as an independent actor rather than someone managed by his wife. But the article itself contained details that undercut this framing in revealing ways. Most tellingly, the piece included a line noting that Meghan lets Harry lead on certain things, specifically matters related to his family relationships. Read that sentence again, and consider what it actually admits. It confirms that on everything else, every business decision, every media strategy, every public appearance, Meghan is in charge. The clarification was meant to push back against widespread perception that she controls the couple's direction, but it ended up confirming exactly that while limiting Harry's autonomy to the narrow category of family matters, which have gone spectacularly poorly under his leadership. The article also described the Australian tour as incredibly successful and positioned it as the new template for their future endeavors. This framing requires ignoring the actual reception of that trip, particularly the controversy over Meghan promoting her as Ever clothing line while photographed alongside ill children and victims of tragedy. The criticism was immediate and widespread, with commentators describing the juxtaposition as tasteless at best and exploitative at worst. Yet, according to People's sources, Meghan is reportedly proud of the money made during the Australian venture. The word proud is doing a lot of work in that sentence. A woman raised in the royal family's tradition of never discussing finances, of maintaining dignified distance from commercial concerns, would find that attitude concerning. Harry reportedly feels uncomfortable with the naked pursuit of profit, having grown up in a world where you never even talked about money. The tension between her commercial instincts and his royal conditioning represents a fundamental fault line in their partnership. The Australian template reportedly involves visiting countries where they can generate both publicity and revenue, using the attention to drive sales of Meghan's lifestyle products. Africa is allegedly the next destination being considered. Imagine the visual of Meghan in a $6,000 outfit photographed alongside malnourished children, using those images to sell clothing through her app. That is apparently the business model they are proud of. The gap between the publicity machine's output and observable reality grows wider. With each passing month, sources close to the situation describe someone who is spiraling badly because she knows nothing is working. The claims that as ever merchandise sells out instantly are increasingly difficult to verify or believe. The Spotify deal collapsed. The Netflix partnership has produced minimal content compared to the reported $100 million investment. The book projects have not materialized into the ongoing publishing relationship that was initially promised. Saturday Night Live captured the public perception with devastating precision. During Weekend Update, Colin Jost noted that King Charles visited the U.S. to mark the 250th anniversary of American independence from Britain and to seek the release of a British hostage being held by an American terrorist. The joke landed because it reflects how many people actually view the situation as Harry held captive by someone who has systematically isolated him from his family, his country, and his former life. When mainstream comedy is describing you as a terrorist holding a hostage, the PR strategy has failed catastrophically. Multiple sources describe the situation behind closed doors as worse than many suspect. The combination of financial pressure, shrinking opportunities, and diminishing public goodwill has created what one insider calls an increasingly desperate atmosphere. The aggressive pursuit of any available revenue stream from wine launch as time to maximize attention to sick children photographed for clothing promotion suggests people who feel they have no choice but to monetize every moment regardless of optics. The control paradox that defines Meghan's approach has become the engine of her undoing. Every attempt to manage her image creates new evidence that can be used against her. Every strategic photograph reveals more than it conceals. Every carefully placed story contains contradictions that careful observers can exploit. The Chicago photograph was meant to establish that she maintains genuine long-term friendships. Instead, it proved she can travel anonymously without incident, undermining her husband's security claims. The People magazine article was meant to position Harry as an autonomous decision-maker. Instead, it confirmed that Meghan controls everything except family matters. The Australia tour was meant to establish a new model for commercial success. Instead, it generated images that will follow her for years. Photographs of a woman selling clothing while surrounded by tragedy. The more tightly she grips the narrative, the more it slips through her fingers. The more she demands control over every image and every story, the more attention she draws to the machinery of manipulation. The contradictions multiply because the underlying situation contains irreconcilable tensions. She wants the credit that comes from showing up at a friend's communion, but needs to hide the proof that she can move freely without security. She wants recognition as a hands-on mother who is part of her community, but is never seen at school gates or local events. She wants sympathy as someone under constant threat, but travels to one of America's most dangerous cities without incident. Each element of the public relations strategy works against every other element. The security narrative conflicts with the relatable regular person narrative. The devoted friend narrative conflicts with the estranged family narrative. The successful businesswoman narrative conflicts with the constant stream of failed projects. No amount of image control can resolve contradictions that are baked into the fundamental positioning. The photograph from Holy Name Cathedral lasted only hours on social media before it was scrubbed from existence. But those hours were enough. The image was captured, shared, music analyzed, and its implications understood by anyone paying attention. Meghan Markle attended a public church service in Chicago, sat in the pews with regular families, used the normal entrance, and encountered no security incidents whatsoever. This simple fact represents a torpedo aimed directly at the arguments her husband has been making in British courts. She can control whether a picture stays online. She cannot control what it already revealed before deletion. The People magazine sources confirmed every detail that makes the image damaging. She arrived early. She waited with other families. She did not use special accommodations. These details were meant to humanize her, but they documented something far more consequential. Proof that the security concerns justifying their absence from Britain are manufactured rather than genuine. The tensions reportedly building inside the Sussex operation are not about aesthetics or vanity. They are about the fundamental impossibility of maintaining contradictory narratives simultaneously. You cannot claim to need millions and security while demonstrating you can move freely through dangerous cities. You cannot claim to value relationships while refusing to see your own father. You cannot claim to be a savvy businesswoman while failing at every major venture. The image control that was supposed to protect the brand has instead become a documentation system recording every contradiction in real time for anyone willing to pay attention. The deleted photograph from Chicago will be forgotten within the news cycle. But what it represented, the gap between the carefully constructed image and the underlying reality, that gap only continues to widen, and no amount of control over photographs can close it. What do you think about all this? Let me know in the comments, and make sure you are subscribed so you do not miss the next one.